What's up, guys? Welcome to Grit. I'm Victoria Dennis alongside Meg Burgdorf. Joining us today is three-time national champ, USC alum, and founder and CEO of AAU Consulting, Allie Wheeler. Welcome to Grit.
Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, and today's session is all about beach volleyball recruiting. The recruiting window opens June 15th, and so if you're heading into your junior year, this episode is all for you.
Fun
Awesome.
stuff. A lot to touch on here. So Allie, of course, is our grit guru today. So to tee up AAU Consulting, what is it? How did you find it? And what was your passion behind it?
Yeah, so I started AAU Consulting in 2020, and when COVID hit, I was doing a lot of private lessons for some of my past clients, and I ended up helping a lot of these kids with the recruiting process, along with coaching them and guiding them and mentoring them. And so all of a sudden, I had this idea after playing at USC, being a coach at Cal Poly. I had this background and this knowledge, and I was really passionate about helping kids get to the next level of playing competitively and furthering their education. So I started AAU Consulting then, and then it kind of is just dominoed into this really great business where I help the kids through the recruiting process and the parents too through this process and mentor them along the way.
Yeah, and we definitely know there's kind of two target audiences, the parents and the athletes, and
Yeah.
building the concept of the autonomous athlete is something I'm sure is a big focus. And doing this in COVID, I mean, things had changed. Now things are settling again,
Right.
back into a more traditional pattern. What are some things that athletes need to look at to, build their personal confidence as an autonomous athlete?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, especially when you go to clinics or camps or tournaments, is the coach is mostly looking at your volley IQ. That's one big thing. And then also volley IQ and then coachability too, and your body language. That's a huge one that is often overlooked. And that's a big one that coaches will look at, talk to club coaches about, talk to me about, and is something that really needs to be focused on. And also athleticism, obviously, is a big one that coaches will look at as well.
Yeah, so I'm really curious about volley IQ. How does an athlete kind of communicate and share that
Yeah.
with a coach?
Yeah, so a big way is just understanding of the game. So how are you going to come back if you're down 2 or 3 points? How are you going to react? What are you going to do? How are you going to communicate with your partner too? And that goes along with that body language aspect. Like, how are you going to fight back? It's also, coaches will look at too, like if you're losing and you lose a game, how are you reacting? What are you saying to your partner? What are you saying to your coach? So all of those aspects are a big, big part of what coaches look at.
And how you lose is a really big asset because there's only ever one winner.
Exactly.
And you also have to, at the Olympics, lose to come back and win bronze, which
Right.
is a big, opportunity to have that growth mindset and really
Right.
attack that.
Yeah, especially at the college level too. You have 5 games going on, and the best 3 out of those 5 games is the winner of the duel. So, for example, like you might lose your match, but the team as a whole wins. So that level of teamwork and just being part of the team and, all of that is really, really important. So coaches look at that.
Big time. I
Yeah.
think one thing, so being the Dovo for Pepperdine men's volleyball this last season and getting to listen in on some conversations as well as going through the recruiting process as we did, very naive when I was like getting recruited and all that fun stuff. And we didn't really have like a funnel, like
Right.
anybody to like really look to for this. So like for myself, like I didn't know if I wanted a big school or a small school or
Yeah.
in-state and out-of-state, and we're making these decisions. I mean, I was 14 when I got my first letter from Florida
Right.
for indoor volleyball.
Yeah.
Because beach wasn't really a thing at the
Right.
time. It was starting to come around, but I mean, you're kind of naive to the whole process, and the parents are as well. So what are like the first couple of steps that these athletes can do?
Great question. So first thing you want to do is at an early age, you want to get out and see schools. That's the biggest thing, is just get out there, visit as many schools as possible, and just be so open-minded. a lot of kids will just have a really narrow focus of only some schools, but you just need to be open-minded in the process. So that's number one. And then coming up with a list too, based on academics, how big of a school you want, location, all of these variables too, and what major. I mean, you're young, but let's try and brainstorm what you want. And if you don't know, that's okay. This list that you come up with for college is going to be ever changing, but it's good to have just a few schools that you really like, and you can kind of branch out from that. And what I like to do is have like a list of your target schools and then your reach schools and your safety schools too. So you kind of have a level of, what can I get to, what can I reach for, and some safety schools to fall back on.
That's awesome. I love
that.
the safety. That's great insight. Because you are a student athlete.
Right.
You're a student first, and it's an amazing opportunity at any level. You don't need to go D1. I mean, there's D1, 2, 3, NAIA, junior college.
Yeah.
And so when I'm talking to my club athletes about this, I'm letting them know there's different avenues. Like it's not all bright, shiny D1. Like there's really great opportunities at the JC level, at NAIA level, and there's really a place for everybody.
Exactly, yeah.
Exactly. So what is one thing kind of to like narrow in that focus of the schools? And then of course we talked on the major. How do you help these athletes through that process?
Honestly, it's just like a series of questions that I ask these athletes of like, what is their priorities? Like, what do they want out of a college experience? Is it like they're really just wanting to go to school for the athletics portion and focusing on that? Or are they really wanting to become a doctor? Like, you just don't know. You have so many different variables and priorities for these girls. And so I'll just go through a series of questions and asking them to prioritize what they really want out of their college experience. I think another thing to note too, that kids often think about too is the coaches. So a lot of kids will want to go to a school because of a coach, when in reality coaches will change schools quite frequently.
We saw that this year. This was our biggest upset in the collegiate game in the coaching space, with lots of big players moving, a lot of new appointments. So that's a really fair point to hone in on, because we've gotten quite comfortable with collegiate coaches staying, and now it's starting to have different opportunities and growth.
Exactly, yeah. So it's really important to look at the school as a school. If you were to not play anymore, like for example, if something were to happen, you get injured. Hopefully that doesn't happen, but you just need to make sure that you like the school for the school.
Yeah.
And the culture, right?
Yeah,
the culture. And then one thing about team culture, it's different every year because it's a different group of girls. And I mean, the foundation might stay the same and you can carry that over from class to class, but what's the culture of the school? As you said, if you don't want to play anymore or you get hurt, do you see yourself there? Is it like, what's your 5-year plan after college? And like, it's very daunting, Allie, because like we're 14 or 15.
Oh, I know.
Having these conversations.
And you're having to, make these big decisions. It's crazy to me. But and that's where I come in and try and help these girls, guide them through it and guide the parents through it too, so they feel ready and equipped to take that next step.
And I think it's important you touched on the culture and the recruiting classes turning over. And I'm sure that's part of the factor when they're looking at that list of schools. Okay, how many are they losing? What positions? What type? Are they blocker, defender, split? And how many, are waving through? Is that a big focus, or how do you work with athletes?
It is. It definitely is. At the same time, though, some coaches are just looking for good athletes and good players to add to their program. So if they have, let's say they have 5 seniors leaving or 5 juniors for that class leaving, sometimes they'll take more or less, just depending on what they're really wanting and needing.
What's an average roster size right now, roughly?
I would say around 18 is like roughly, or a little bit more. I think roster sizes are growing in each year. So,
but as they're growing, the financial scholarships is quite limited. Can you talk a little bit about the whole scholarship, the financial support that athletes can look at?
Right. So
I was just going to ask that. She read my mind. She read my mind. Yeah. College is expensive. Help us. How do we go to college?
How do we make this dream a reality?
So there is the athletic scholarship portion. So if you're fully funded, you have 6 full scholarships for beach volleyball. So coaches can divvy that up however they want. And then you have academic scholarships, and that's a great way for kids to get extra money. And that's why it's so important you're a student athlete, like you said, first. And that is a huge factor when you go through college because it's becoming more and more expensive. So it's really important to focus in on grades and school.
And if you're a parent out there and you're thinking about the finances, how do coaches maybe tend to divvy up the money? I know there's different trends and approaches, but how much, do you start thinking of the school and the financial support there?
Yeah, I mean, I think coaches will go by as an as-needed basis or of what the kid deserves. Like if they're a hardworking athlete and they're a top recruit, they're probably going to get some sort of funding. But it really just depends the school and the coach and the situation.
And different schools have different scholarships that they present to the table. I was broadcasting for, I think it was Boston College, and I read off on the roster like 4 or 5 of the athletes had different grants that they applied for and received a scholarship from it. So there's different avenues that are applicable to colleges, whether it's grants or like in-house for the universities that have like kind of special ways. I mean, there are ways. If you dig, you can find a way.
Yes, there are so many different ways to earn some sort of scholarships, grants. It's really, really great that they have that accessible. And being an athlete just makes it a little bit easier to be able to have that added to your resume and be able to apply to those.
Yeah. So I kind of want to talk about getting athletes in front of coaches.
Yeah.
So there's the whole crazy month of July that's in the South Bay, and then with all the national championships, and then there's camps, clinics, tournaments. So if I'm a parent and I'm weighing up different opportunities for my athlete, what are the ones that are like, okay, now's the time to do it, and now's the time to kind of pull back? So what's that planning look like?
I love that question. So I think during the summer is the time to really focus in on those tournaments. So it's like AVP Nationals, you have like USA, you have BVCAs, all of them, you name them. So those are really good to go to because most college coaches will be going to those. Great way to be seen, show off your skills on like a live play kind of scene. So that's a great way. And then I think during the fall, there's a lot of camps as well. So that's a really good way to get in front of the coaches and have that kind of one-on-one time with the coach and get that instruction with them and to see the campus. So it's a win-win scenario where you get to be in front of the coach, you get to see the campus, see if you like it, and tour and just get a feel for what it would be like to be a student there.
So I'm walking up to a clinic or a camp.
Yeah.
What's your recommendation for a student athlete to demonstrate their volleyball IQ, to be autonomous, to engage with the experience?
Right.
What's that like for them?
So if you have never met the coach, I would go up to them, shake their hand, introduce yourself, tell them about yourself, and then, I'm just excited to be here. And I think too, sending an email beforehand is really important as well, just to let them know that you'll be at the camp, really excited to learn from you, all that good stuff. And when you're at the camp, biggest thing, like I said earlier with tournaments too, is just being really just positive, good communicator on the court, good body language. Those are all really good things to be showcasing outside of your athleticism and volley IQ.
And you help your clients, one may say, develop these emails. And we have an example of one of those that we can walk through together.
Yeah.
And speaking of emails, you have to be persistent because being on this side of it, as you know, coaching at Cal Poly, me at Pepperdine being a Dovo, I was not involved in any of that, but I sat right next to Hardy, who was a part of that.
Yeah.
And they were getting emails every day, every single day. And yes, we have like the recruits we may be looking at, but it's very important to send follow-up emails like 2 to 3 to 4 times.
Yeah.
And that's how many it might take.
Right. And I mean, even just speaking from my personal experience with emails with Anna, she was my coach at SC. I sent her, I think, 12 emails before she even responded to
Well,
one.
talk to us about that because
Yeah.
coaches can't. There's a blackout window when they can
Right.
engage, can't engage, and if you don't know that, you kind of feel empty or ghosted, but it's
Right.
not actual intentional ghosting.
Exactly. So this is why I tell my clients is it's basically a one-way street for X amount of years, pretty much. So usually if I work with clients starting their freshman year, you're sending emails, you're telling them about yourself, you find ways to stand out from the crowd, and going into your junior year, June 15th is when coaches can finally talk to you. So it's really important to lay that foundation down, that groundwork. So once that June 15th date hits, you can hit the ground running with talking to these coaches, having phone calls, and hopefully getting offers at that point.
Now we have an example of this,
Yeah.
so let's go ahead and throw it up and talk a little bit about it, talk through it. It's condensed. This
Condensed,
isn't
yeah.
what like you professionally put out. We had to kind of smush it all
Yeah.
together, but we can tap on certain things in this few paragraphs.
Most definitely. So first, you want to address the coach. I usually like to go with the last name of the coach. And in the beginning, you basically just introduce yourself and explain what this email is about. So here I say, introduce myself, highlight academic athletic profile, share your passion for whatever school you're speaking with. And then in the second paragraph, you're talking about why you want to go to the school and what do you bring to the table. So it's really important to differentiate yourself and share why you want to go to the school and what you're going to provide for this team. And then you share your academics, GPA. It's also good to share your transcripts, so your unofficial transcripts via PDF. And if you play indoor too, I usually work with beach volleyball athletes, but I do have some indoor athletes too. So that's good to share, and any honors or AP classes too, and any extracurricular activities. If you're, part of government or you volunteer, whatever it might be, it's really good to add that in as well. Share your volleyball club and certain achievements. So that can be, we finished first at AVP Nationals, or, I was voted most valuable player in whatever tournament it might be. And always share your schedule too. So if you know what tournaments you're going to be playing in, or if you're going to one of their camps coming up, share that information with them.
Because again, they can't respond, but you can educate them.
You
and
can
share.
exactly. You can educate them with as much information as possible. And then this is obviously for an athlete that's a freshman or sophomore who can't speak, or coaches can't speak to them. So in this last paragraph, you're talking about, looking at highlight videos and to speak with the coach. So whoever you want to have as a reference, whether it's your club coach, indoor coach, whoever it may be, and then myself, if I'm working with you. And and then you thank them for time and consideration, and then have your name, email, Instagram, YouTube, and a reference as well. Yeah.
Perfect.
I know you touched a little bit on the hybrid athlete,
Yeah.
the indoor beach. I know the trend is kind of moving more into beach specific,
Right.
indoor specific, but there's still a number of athletes there. What are some
100%.
tips for those that are truly those hybrid athletes?
Yeah, great question. So I would say making sure you understand what schools still have both is really, really big. And understanding what you're kind of looking at with that, and your options will be a bit limited, to be honest. And so understanding that, making sure you're able to really balance both too, because in college it is very challenging to do both. It's possible. So many girls have done it, but just understanding that it is challenging, and just have to make sure that you're willing and ready to commit to doing that.
So yes, we have established the email.
Yeah.
What is a good recruiting video? How do I piece it together?
Yeah, so basically, number one thing you're gonna want is having an intro slide or an intro video. So this will include information about yourself, your high school. Here's an example of one of my recruits, and she has an intro slide here with high school club and her position, email, and Instagram as well. So you can have this or have an intro video too, where you're kind of showing your personality. Those are always fun too.
So a little bit different than when we were getting recruited is social media.
Yes.
So that plays a big role now. You can put your highlights on social media, but it's also, even if you have a private account, you should not be posting anything that you do not want your head coach to see.
Correct. And some do's and don'ts with social media too is you want to be posting your highlight videos, any, recent tournament finishes that you've had, and workouts as well, something that's just different outside of just highlight videos. And then something you don't want to be doing though is just tagging a bunch of schools and wearing like a school's t-shirt or something. That's just a big no-no. Because if other schools see that, they're going to be questioning, are they interested in me? Are they even interested in coming to my school? So just making sure you're aware of that.
And what about posting when they're committed? What's kind of
Yeah. So once you make that verbal commitment, because when you're going into your junior year after that June 15th date, you'll have a offer that's going to be verbal. So nothing's written yet. So you can make that verbal commitment and put on social media that you have verbally committed to the school. However, you won't actually sign until your senior year, and if it's an agreement with the scholarship and all of that.
And so do some athletes wait because maybe they've accepted a verbal commitment and maybe looking at another school? So maybe don't post and kind of hold to their senior year? Or do people typically post on their verbal commitments?
People usually post on verbal commitments. Most people, the beach volleyball world and indoor world, are both very small, and people find out about those different commitments, but it's good to let people know that you have made that verbal commitment. It's also good to let the coaches know that if you had different offers from other coaches, to tell them that you've made this commitment to this school.
And talking about texting and phone calls, like is that couth? Is it not? Like how does that work?
Yeah, with the phone calls, as in like with the commitment.
Yeah, and the recruiting process.
Yeah.
Is it cool to text the coach? Is it cool to call?
Great question. Yeah. So after that June 15th date, I always suggest my girls to send out an email, try and set up a phone call. So it's like a call to action email. And so if the coach responds back wanting to set up a phone call, and let's say you guys get on the phone, most important thing is to have a list of questions that you want to ask the coach, and just present yourself well. They're a normal person on the other line. Don't be nervous, just be confident, be yourself. That's the biggest thing that I tell my girls. And just making sure that they have that list of questions out in front of them to ask. And it can be anything from, what does your recruiting list look like? How many girls you're wanting to take? Anything like that. Another really important question would be, where am I on your list and where can we go from here? So just what are those next steps for us is super important so they know.
You want to check out some more of the film of what good looks like?
Yeah, let's check it out. So we talked a little bit about what film should be and what it should look like. I know you brought an example of one of your clients as well. Because it's always like, is it a highlight reel? Is it an entire game?
Right.
What's kind of like the in-between? Can I have multiple videos?
Yeah, so that's where our YouTube channel comes in. It's really, really important for coaches to have this. So it has a series of highlight videos from tournaments and then full game footage. So it's really important to have a balance of both. Some coaches actually will ask for full game footage over highlight videos just because it can be a little more realistic. You can see each and every play, how the player responds to if they lose the point, how they respond to when they win the point, all of that. So it's good to have a balance of both and be able and readily available to send either or to a coach.
And we can take a look right now at some of the video that we were talking about previously. So is it a step-by-step process? And we'll walk through it when we pull up the video. But is it How do you explain this to your recruit?
Right.
Kind of walk us through why you were choosing these clips.
Yeah, so what I like to do is the first video is just like a wow factor. So she just bounced that first ball. And that to coaches can be like, wow, like I want to watch more. And so we have this arrow as well pointing to who she is. Um, and I would say this is important for majority of the first few videos. And then as, coaches get to know who she is, it won't be as needed. But for this specific video, we started with serve receive hitting, and we want to showcase all of her skills. So we got passing and hitting. We got every different shot that she has in her tool bag. And then as we go through the video, we highlight her setting skills as well and defensive plays too. So some coaches will ask for specific skills. So sometimes they'll ask, can we just see serve receive video? Can we just see you hitting one specific area? Or let's say you go to a camp and a coach asks you, hey, I want to see you hit more angle. You send them a specific video of you hitting more angle. So it's really important to just tailor it to different coaches, what they're asking, but also have just kind of videos like this where you can send them to all different coaches.
Great.
Yeah, I love it.
Mm-hmm.
I had one other kind of question. How does an athlete communicate their leadership style or their communication style or the role that they may be bringing to the team that they're looking to join?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say they usually will, I would say mostly coaches can kind of get a read off of that. However, I think a good way to communicate it and like kind of voice it is just by how you kind of present yourself with other players. So if you're with your teammate and, let's say she's in a rut or something, like how are you guiding your teammate through that? How are you helping them? So I think just by example and just
That's where that big film comes in, the whole match play.
right, and just like leading by example. And I think coaches are really able to get a read on what kind of leader you are in that way.
Has there been a time I've heard this has happened? You're the #1 player at this tournament, but you clearly have a bad attitude when it's not going your way. Will the college coaches walk away?
Some do.
Mm-hmm.
Some do. If culture is very important for a team, they definitely will walk away. And I've seen it happen, not with my clients, but with other girls that I've been at tournaments at. Coaches are like, I don't want anything to do with that player.
Mm-hmm.
And it just is different for each coach though. If they're prioritizing culture, then they're not going to want that kid. If they're prioritizing just a really good athlete, this girl is just really good, is going to make a huge impact, then they might want to recruit her. And maybe they think they'll be able to help her and change her attitude and all of that. So,
which is a big task to take on as a head coach
100%.
because you have 17 other athletes that you have to worry about,
Yep.
amongst other things.
Yeah,
what it takes to run a
exactly.
program.
Traveling.
Traveling and
Everything.
budget and all of that fun stuff.
Yeah.
Compliance, one may say. But yes, so if they don't have grit, if they don't have the drive, because playing college athletics, it's a roller coaster of emotions. It doesn't matter what level that you're playing at. It's the ebbs and flows. So can I recruit an athlete and a kid that I know, yes, the volleyball skills, they'll come in time, but what's kind of the like heart and core of the athlete? Do they have grit? Do they have heart on the court? Are they going to reach out to a teammate if they're having a bad day, even if they're the same position?
Right.
What's our goal together? Our goal is to
Right.
win as a program, and it's not going to be only you doing it. It's not only going to be me doing it.
Exactly.
It's going to
be
be
us.
all of us,
Yeah.
right?
And I love that point too, because a lot of my kids, if they're short or something and they feel like, oh, I'm not going to be able to get recruited to the top score or whatever, that's not true. Like at the end of the day, like if you show that grit, that passion, drive, and you're super proactive, that's what really, really matters. And it doesn't matter your height, doesn't matter where you live. Like if you have those qualities and characteristics, that's what's going to really set you apart.
So if I want to be a part of AAU Consulting, I need your help. How do I find you?
Yeah, so you can find me on awrecruits.com or on Instagram at awrecruits. And you can email me at hello@awrecruits.com.
Perfect. And
Awesome.
we can find all of that in the description below. Meg, any final questions for our
No.
great guru?
I think men's collegiate beach is going to start coming Allie's way very soon as it rolls out across the United States too, with recruiting and scholarships. So I think that's a watch this space.
We'll watch it. We're
Awesome.
zoned in on it, that's for sure. Well, guys, make sure to like, subscribe, share this video. If you have any recruiting questions and want to get involved no matter what level of play, reach out to Allie at AAU Consulting. Allie, thank you.
Thank you so much for
joining us.
having me.
Yeah, fun times. Until next time, I'm Victoria Dennis alongside Meg Burgdorf. Stay gritty out there.